So this picture sparked some discussion or controversy between me and some of my friends in our secondary school WhatsApp discussion forum. Good morning, children of the Most High. This is your brother Chukwemeka. In this picture, you see a Catholic bishop. I think this is Cardinal Ariz. I'm not sure, but I think it's Cardinal Francis Ariz, one of the paramount cardinal from Igbo land. And in this picture, I'll explain what he's doing in this picture in a minute, but let's discuss the concept of communion of the saints and how that concept is present in Igbo culture. Because there are some times we are hypocrites, to be honest. And I don't mean to insult anyone by saying that, but there are people who will not believe something told to them by their ancestors and their traditionalists, but they will believe the same thing packaged by a white man. You don't believe in the God of your ancestors, but you believe in God. It's just that the same God given by a white man. So this is a colonial mentality. You are not doing this because you want to. You are doing it because you've been engineered to do so. The reason most of us don't speak Igbo language, or most of our children don't speak Igbo language, is because it was beaten out of us. It's not because Igbo is difficult to speak. It's not because Igbo is no longer spoken, but it was beaten out of us. Do you remember when you were in secondary school, and those of us who speak Igbo, they will write our name and they will punish us? That was not done to any other tribe. It wasn't. That's not done in Yoruba land. It's not done in. I grew up in Cross River State. You speak any of the language there. There are hundreds of languages in Cross River State. That's not done. It was only done in Igbo land. I went to school in Cross River State. Then I went to school in Igbo land, and that's the difference. I saw that. So if you believe a white God, unlike what your ancestors did, it's not because you want to. It's not because that God appeared to you. No, it's because it was beaten into you. You have been genetically engineered to think that way. So once you realize that you are doing what you have been beaten into doing, maybe it's time to stop. Anyway, in Igbo tradition, okay, let me start with explaining the concept of communion of saints. Most people who are Catholics, or who used to be Catholics like myself, the communion of saints is a concept that believes that all those who are heavenly bound are in constant communication. It is the concept that gives you the idea of guardian angel, patron saints, and the rest of them. It believes that those of us who are those of them anyway, because I'm not part of the Catholic communion, those of them who are Catholics and the saints in heaven and those in purgatory and the angels in heaven as well, they are all in constant communication. They discuss, they talk. It is this concept that kind of preempts you people praying to Mary and all this stuff. It's just the concept of communion of saints. So it means that when that concept tells about whenever the communion or the communion in church, in Catholic Mass is shared, it's a food, a meal that is eaten by the saints on earth, the heavenly bound saints on earth, those in purgatory, and also the saints in heaven, that they all come together at the same table, the altar, and eat at the same time. That is what the Catholics believe. I used to believe that when I was a Catholic. No, that same belief, it's also present in Igbo culture. In Igbo culture, we believe that we are in constant communication with the dead, with those of our family members who have died. Remember, while the Igbo culture does not accept saints or heavenly kind of people, we have distinction between those who died in good and those who died in bad. Those who are evil and died in evil, they are not buried in the compound or in the community. They are thrown into the evil forest, or what we call Ajago. Those people are not remembered for anything. Their souls are just wandering in limbo. That is the Igbo belief. And those people who died in good are buried within the vicinity of the living relatives. And we believe that the souls of these living relatives are around us all the time. They're in communication with us. And whenever we want to eat, we first of all give them a portion of the food to consume. So you see an Igbo man, when he wants to drink wine, he will pour a little bit of that on the ground. He pour it out for his ancestors who have gone beyond as their own share. When he wants to eat eba, he throws a little bit of that on the ground. When he wants to eat anything, that is the belief. We believe that the spirit of our dearly beloved people who have passed on is still within us and close to us. And so they eat with us. When it's time for meal, they come together and we all eat. It's the same communion of the saints. That is the concept. That's what we believe in Igbo land. Let me read it out from the book of Olaudah Ekwano. And in his book, he says, when he talks about religion, he says, as to religion, the natives believe that there's one creator of all things and that he lives in the sun and is girded around with a belt that he may never eat or drink, but according to some, he smokes a pipe. Then it goes further to say, I do not remember to have heard of it, that's the doctrine of eternity, but however, some believe in the transmigration of souls in a certain degree, that is reincarnation. Then it goes on to say, those spirits which are not transmigrated, such as our dear friends or relations, they believe always attend them and guard them from the bad spirits or their foes. Let me explain that. He's saying that we believe, our traditional belief is that those spirits of our dead friends and relations who have not transmigrated or who have not gone to the land of the dead to rest for eternity, we believe that they are close to us. They are always with us and they protect us from enemies and from dangers and from whatever. That is the concept of guardian angel. That is the concept of patron saint. Okay, he said, for this reason, they always, before eating, as I have observed, put some small portion of the meat and pour some of their drink on the ground for them, and they often make oblations of the blood of beasts or fowls at their graves. So before we eat or before we drink, we put out a little portion of that, very minuscule portion. That is the portion of those who have gone beyond. Those your brothers or sisters who have gone. This is our tradition. We believe that those people who have died are still with us, and we believe that they eat and drink with us. That is communion of the saints. It baffles me that people will believe communion of the saints in Catholic Church, but they will not believe it in the tradition. When it comes to the Catholic Church, it's heavenly. It's what God said we should do. It's majestic. It's God's work. But when it comes to the tradition, if you see me now put a little bit of Sprite on the ground before I drink it, they'll say, hey, I'm worshiping Satan. They say, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing juju. That is ignorance. And when you see people display such ignorance, you don't blame them. It's not their fault. They have been genetically modified to behave stupidly. All you do is just gradually take your time to explain to them, and maybe, just maybe, they will understand it. Even if they don't understand it then, you've sowed the foundation for them to understanding it later. Remember, all of us got here because somebody did the work to wake us up. Most of us who were born Christian were born into the slavery system. Somebody did the work to put out the material to wake us up. And so you must always do the work whenever you meet people who you can talk to and who are in ignorance. It takes time to wake people up. So, coming around to Cardinal Francis Arize, I think he is the one really. What he is doing here is what they call itunzu. In Igbo tradition, when you come to somebody's house, you have to indicate that you come in peace. Nzu is the calcium clay, is a white calcium clay. It's a sign of peace in Igbo tradition. And the person will bring a kola nut, which is what we use to entertain guests, and give it to you with the nzu. Nzu is present in the same plate with the kola nut. And you take the nzu first before the kola nut, before you begin to. The kola nut is what we use to offer libation, is what we use to pray Praying in Igbo land is just wishing ourselves good luck and wishing ourselves safety from evil. But first of all, you take the nzu and you draw it on the ground. That's what the itu nzu. Itu means to throw. You draw it on the ground. You see, as he is doing here, what he is doing here, he is making a covenant with the earth that I come here in peace. I meant the people here no harm. That is what the Nzu signifies. Nzu signifies peace. Somebody who you're sitting with in Igbo land, if that person holds the Nzu before you and him have any discussion or eat food, if the person does anything to you, like poison you, it will go back to that person. It will affect that person, not only in this generation, but in future generations. That's what we believe, and that's what works for us, and it works. The Nzu is a sign of peace, and that's what he's doing here. This is it. It's just a sign of peace that he's showing. It's like maybe Jewish people saying shalom or whatever that means. But I know that some people will see this picture and say Francis is cowing to the tradition, that he's worshiping Satan, he's doing this. These are ignorant people. They just don't understand things. And because they don't understand, they just talk nonsense. This is a sign of peace in our tradition, and that's what, of course, Francis is. For him to be a cardinal, he must be educated in theology, a lot of theology. So he must have known that this has nothing to do with worshiping devil or anything. Who is devil? We don't even know that entity in Africa. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the devil talk right now, but this picture was an opportunity for me to educate some of my classmates through our WhatsApp forum. And because it's WhatsApp, discussion were not heated that much, so I wasn't really arguing with anybody. But the way I do, if a discussion descends to argument, I usually log off, because there's really no point in argument. But it creates an opportunity to teach people what traditions signify. Most people will not believe in tradition, but they will believe it in church. That thing you believe in church was actually gotten from the tradition. That communion of saints you believe, that man you saw pouring out a little bit of wine outside, it's what the priest does. The priest in the Catholic Church takes a little bit of the bread, bread, and drops it out for the saints. He does that. It's the same thing that happens. I was an altar boy for like 3 years, I don't remember, but the priest, before he offers whatever he's offering in his, whatever they do in the mass, he takes a little bit of that host, that what do you call that bread, that wafer bread or whatever. It cuts a little bit of it, and it takes a little bit of the chalice, the wine. He puts it out there as a means of sacrifice, out there for the saints. And then he begins to call the saints of the Roman saints, Sistus, Marcellus, Cornelius, Dominicus, whatever cus they have in their names. So imagine that. What that means is that you're calling the dead to a meal, but you're calling the Roman dead. What about your own dead? Don't you have people that are dead in your community? If the dead do eat, your own, would they be starving? Again, it's important you put in your thinking in this process. And I'll do another video to explain this, because this happened in my family recently. I'll do that video. Hopefully brothers and sisters will understand what I'm saying. But I just want to explain the concept of communion of saints. If you don't believe it in the tradition, at least know that you already believe it in church. And this is not only the Catholic Church, every church out there. Because everybody out there believe, all the Christians out there, they believe in guardian angel, they believe in patron saint. That's why they bear names of so-called saints. Anyway, may the Most High bless you. Salam.